This time, it's not the cake, but the shoe that is the lie.
Good afternoon, John. You have a really interesting story and basically some Android botnet that trying to siphon off some money from the, fraudulently from unknowing victims. Could you elaborate? And especially, I like the headline of the story.
Sure, Ganesh. Yeah, this actually, the story caught my attention for two reasons. One is it's kind of a meme about, they call it, the shoe is a lie, which is an old meme. But there's also the story that you get about, depending on how you want to pronounce it, Tan Staffel, right? The old Robert Heinlein, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. So what these attackers are doing is they put out apps out on the Google Play Store, actually, and nothing that was observed as suspicious. There was no ad revenue. I mean, it looked pretty normal. I think Google, did the best that they could, and these apps actually advertised free shoes. And so if you got the app, you would like sign up or whatever. You either get boots or sneakers or whatever. There was a couple different versions of these apps, and you would sign up for these things, and they'd say, "Oh, we're going to ship them to you in 14 days." And you think, "Okay, great." So you're sitting there waiting. Well, in the background, what this app was doing was performing click fraud. And so what that means is that they would actually go to various websites that would pay the app to redirect advertisers to them, or advertisements to them. So like, let's say you say, "Hey, if you show me your ad for, Joe's Auto Garage or whatever, I will give you a penny." It's a small amount of money. It builds up quite a bit rapidly. The model does. And so what these guys were doing is they were actually going to these sites, getting this click fraud, and so many but the trick to this whole thing is ad and click fraud is pretty normal. But the fun part of this one is that they were actually doing it and pretending, because of a problem with some of these apps, they were pretending to be a legitimate, genuine app. So when the good sites, the good people would see these, they would say, "Oh, this is the real thing. This is not some fly by night app. This is not some fake thing. It's actually a real product that that we would pay to." But they would funnel this money to the fraudsters. There are some solutions. There's some ways to prevent that, but it's kind of a neat little trick. And then the customers were starting to complain because they weren't getting their free shoes. Again, no such thing as a free lunch, guys. But they wouldn't get their free shoes, so they started putting in bad reviews of these apps. Google caught it; they figured it out. But it's one of those things that you just got to recognize that that it's not easy to do. I'll be honest with you, but once it works, you get a way to do this. You can generate a lot of revenue really quick by doing this click fraud. So there's a couple recommendations, that you can say. There's actually a setting. There's what they call app-ads.txt file that the publishers can put in that will prevent. They'll say, "Hey, who's allowed to actually be an ad revenue generation?" So it actually kind of limits some of the controls there. There's also various things that advertisers and whatnot can say to say, "Where's my stuff going to?" But in the end, it's pretty difficult to prevent this click fraud. And Google took these two apps that are mentioned in this article down, but it's still kind of a question in my mind, is how much revenue was, I don't want to say lost, but how much revenue was generated by these fraudsters.
Yeah, I think, John, like you said in the beginning of discussion, there's no free lunch. It comes to the same point. And again, actually, I think it ties up with the story which actually George talked about. Basically, it comes to the user awareness. I think you elaborate a little bit on user awareness, so clicking with something else. I guess in this case also, maybe some of those things needs to be carried over. It's like I have responsibilities, I think in this case also on the user side. to play, I think, a little bit cognizant whether is it really true or not. Of course, I mean, Google, Apple, they are doing the best they can do, but sometimes they're falling through. There's so many apps. Sometimes they just fall through the cracks. And besides, so what are the recommendations you kind of advise to the users?
Yeah, there's a couple things. One is the good thing is the users aren't getting attacked, right? They're not losing money. This is just advertisers. So, some people will say, well, that's not my problem, which I disagree with, because it turns into, it's like the old, if I steal enough stuff from a store, the price has got to go up to cover it. But I think it's one of those things, like you said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Don't expect something for free for just, for breathing. That's just not how things work in this world. And the other thing is that if you're installing an app, even from legitimate stores like the iTunes Store and Google Play, even the PC versions, you need to be aware of what you're installing. Is it around? Look at the reviews. Look at what it said about it. Is this a new products come on the market all the time, but you got to just kind of be careful. If it's somebody's new offering something that just seems a little fishy, maybe you don't give, maybe you wait it out a little bit, even though you might miss out on that free pair of sneakers. Maybe you just wait it out and just think to yourself, I really don't want to give out any information, even if that information is just installing on the phone, because there's a certain loss of privacy that happens when you install any app on any device.
That's a really good point. I mean, there's no other way unless you accept it. There's no way you could be able to install any app.
Yep.
So that's right there. We're giving up some information to get that app onto our devices. That's a really good point, John.
Some of them have pretty high ranking privileges on whatever device they're on.
Yep.
And they can get their hooks pretty deep into the device. I mean, they mentioned this. It's like a botnet, and so you can imagine, like, maybe they made a few bucks on the click fraud, right? Maybe they're ready to launch something bigger, and they're like, you know what? It didn't take us much time to get on these devices. It doesn't take much more than a simple line of code, right, to try to compromise something small.
Yep.
So we got some money in a short period of time. Like you said, you can generate a lot of revenue. So they say 65,000 posts or something like that. I mean, you can generate a lot of revenue in advertising.
But your point's real valid too, George, is that if you think about it, one line of code that said, oh, we're having experience in delay, you need to install this other app, or you need to click this button, or you need to give me a new address or your credit card number, or
It's scary. It's almost like they'll start this way, and then they'll be like, okay, we can get a foothold. So, or maybe these devices that already have this app, even though they were removed from the App Store, they removed the app from the device. A lot of people root their devices. A lot of people want full control, which is cool. But at the same time, it gives a little more risk, right? So, very cool. Very interesting concept, yeah.